infinity and beyond.
Oh, man.
Oh, woman.
Now to talk about everybody's favorite Marvel movie,
Iron
Man 3.
Man 3.
Also known as my least favorite, and it should be everybody's least favorite because this movie is god-awful.
Wasn't it really high grossing?
It made $1 billion or plus. It made
$1 billion? Was
so
it
on a budget,
$1 billion on expectations?
On a budget of $200 million, it made $1.2 billion. So it made a solid $1 billion, just about. But you know why? It's because there was no movie after the Avengers. They were hot off of the Avengers. Everybody was hyped as fuck for the next movie after the Avengers, and it was this.
Here's what I want to know, and we'd have to do a little number crunching, but I'd be interested to know how much that was made opening weekend and how much it was made afterwards.
Subsequently, it made a lot of money in China because there's a lot of
China.
There's a lot of deals with the Chinese film. This was the beginning of Hollywood working heavily with the Chinese Film Commission and stuff.
Yeah.
So, so it's a bad movie. Came out May 3rd, 2013. About a year to the date is Avengers 1.
I think that pretty much covers it. We can move on.
I wish it were that simple.
One of the best layups in Marvel film history with no assist.
You know what sucks? It has one of my favorite trailers for any movie. And then the movie comes out. I'm like, oh, no.
I don't know if I remember the trailer.
Trailer was badass. So the plot of the movie, if anybody hasn't seen it, is magic is also science. Like pretty much science is indiscriminate and indistinguishable from magic at this point, and it's bad. And good actors get caught in the crossfire. It's a bad movie. Directed by a bad director who he directed Lethal Weapon 1 through 4, and then apparently forgot how to direct after that.
Were those movies really greatly directed?
I love Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, but were they greatly directed?
No,
Did you ever see a scene
he wrote
in
them
Lethal
too.
Weapon?
He wrote them too, though.
That doesn't mean anything. Did he write Iron Man 3?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that explains how many one-liners.
That explains why there's more Tony Stark not in a suit than there is in a suit. Because he's like, I don't want to do a movie about a guy in a suit. I want to do a buddy cop movie, which is pretty much what it becomes.
Yeah.
So what are your abbreviated feelings? Because this movie kind of sucks and we shouldn't linger on it too much.
I thought, like I said, best layup ever. Like, I think that it started out really strong. It had a really cool message as far as like kind of setting how, the sins of the past can kind of come back and bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
And I liked it because it was like Tony Stark before he was Iron Man, his decision making, but when he was an asshole, creeping up behind him, which in Iron Man 2 they kind of glazed over a little bit because it was more about his father's mistakes coming back and biting him, but this was more about like, yeah, I was kind of a dickhead and now I'm answering for it.
But by the way, he's a dickhead again. He's a complete asshole to everybody in this movie for no reason. Including a child, which has literally done nothing wrong to him.
Yeah, well, they were trying to bring back what people liked about him in Iron Man 1, I think. Because Iron Man 2, he was way too...
But he was like suave in Iron Man 1. This one, he's just a dick.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that the plot device, Guy Pearce plays a scientist that gets stood up at the prom.
He plays Edward Nygma. I mean,
he plays literally the superhero equivalent of the guy who asks a girl to the prom, and then when he takes her there, she goes to make out with another guy.
We can all agree this movie is just The Incredibles, right?
Arguably. Sans the
guy wants to work with a guy. He's like, yeah. Like, it starts with a flashback of a guy wanting to work with a guy. He's like, fly home, buddy. I work alone. And then he's like, comes back as a villain years later, who's like a successful arms dealer.
Yeah. There were a lot of things I liked about it, but it kind of suffered from... I remember watching it in theaters. I really genuinely liked it, but I think it's because I wasn't really paying a lot of attention to the progression of the plot.
Or lack thereof.
But it kind of felt like another movie that Disney made called the Last Jedi, where it was like written in part by one person and then written in part by another person, and it's kind of like if you were to rip out the Old Testament and you reread the New Testament, you're like, wait, who the hell is this we're talking about now? Like, it just had a lot of inconsistencies across the board.
It is funny because that you relate it to The Last Jedi, though, because this is one of those movies like The Last Jedi. Within the first 5 minutes, I knew I was not getting the movie I was promised.
What are you expecting? Yeah.
Because like the tone is so
I
weird.
don't know about the first 5 minutes.
No,
though.
like the first.
That might have been the best part of the movie. Was the first 5 minutes.
No, you know what I knew is like the second it started with a narration. Which is weird. And then the second it didn't have the same title card the first two has with like the metal stamp thing saying like the title.
Oh, was it kind of like Rogue One where like it was trying to be different?
Yeah, and it just ended up being, well, it was very different from being good. Rogue One's okay. I haven't rewatched it really.
Yeah.
I half rewatched
It's okay.
But so I don't know.
Guy Pearce, A+.
I just want to cover some of the huge problems with this movie, all relating to the Ten Rings and the Mandarin. So Aldrich Killian he's Guy Pearce.
Guy Pearce. Yeah.
He's left at the prom floor without it's his party and he'll cry if he wants to. In the year 2000. So in 2013 he's running the Ten Rings.
Mm-hmm.
So theoretically, because that's the terrorist group that the Mandarin is shown to run.
Even though I don't think they refer to it that way, but
they do. He's got the Ten Ring symbol.
Well,
he wears the 10 rings.
Yeah, but they never show. They never say the 10 rings. They just show them.
I think they do. But which begs the question. So if he in 2000 decides to become a bad guy, and in 2013 he owns the 10 rings. In 2008, did he still run the 10 rings? It's reasonable to expect because they existed, and if he controls them now, he probably controlled them then.
Would then in Iron Man 1
he was kidnapped by Aldrich Killian?
Is Killian still the enemy? Because it kind of seemed a little bit like that. I'm gonna blank on his name. Jeff Bridges' character was Obadiah.
Well, he was working with the
red
10
herring.
But
Obadiah wanted him out of the picture, and he paid to have that. So, but if they were already a criminal organization funded by an enemy of Tony Stark, it's
why
kind of
did they keep him alive?
Yeah, I mean, the first movie also had a couple of different characters that were all representative of the bad guys,
right?
Whereas this one,
Raza, like the head guy,
the guy who looked like DJ Khaled, and then they had he did,
and they had
they had
the guy who was supposed
to
be
the dude
the Mandarin
that's definitely the Mandarin.
I think he had rings even, and that was the 10 rings in the movie. By the way.
Oh yeah, because they refer to them that. They audibly say it.
The British people are like, Gomera being taken over by the 10 rings. Like they said
and
1,000
even
times.
his buddy in the cave is like, he's running the organization called the 10 Rings.
Like, he's like, they speak all sorts of languages, Mandarin, and it's like, we got
it. They're Mandarin.
Or he's the Mandarin.
He's the Mandarin.
So
he is the Mandarin.
So pretty much the movie doesn't make sense in context of the franchise.
It's almost like they forgot that there was a first movie.
Right. And a second movie and everything else. And that they were good.
Iron Man 3 is a fan fiction of the Iron Man films.
Yeah, by somebody who wasn't a fan. It's almost like Last Jedi.
Yeah. Which anybody who's listening to this probably knows this, but there was a huge debacle with the direction where Jon Favreau was going to be directing it.
Right.
And the powers that be didn't really like his vision, even though he made them millions of dollars beforehand.
He arguably made them all the money because he made the
if
first
it were
one.
Like almost like he single-handedly kickstarted not single-handedly, but like as directors go. And they kicked them off and replaced him with Justin Long?
No, Shane West.
Shane
Black.
Shane Black.
Director
of Lethal Weapon
Star
series.
of Predator, or one of the guys in Predator.
Yeah. Kind of a
weird
one-trick pony type director. And they handed him all this intellectual property, and he had to make a movie out of it.
And he didn't care about he's not a fan, so he made it something that wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, it's almost like he tried to torpedo the franchise. Now, it didn't stop it from making shit tons of money,
Apparently,
but I think it was all based on pretense, where people were like, well, I loved Iron Man 1, and I kind of liked Iron Man 2, and if I know anything about Hollywood movies, the third one's the best.
Right. Wrong,
because it's literally the worst executed movie in the Marvel franchise. To the point that I would almost like...
It's the worst.
If I were to put together a compilation, because nothing that happens in Iron Man 3 carries over.
Except he doesn't have the chest piece anymore.
He doesn't have the chest. Yeah, but he could have figured... He never mentions it ever again, so it doesn't matter.
The only thing that matters is that you don't see it under his shirt ever.
Yeah.
That's it.
But like, if I would just eradicate it completely from history. Now, granted, I really like the actors in it. I thought they did a great job casting it.
Sadly, it's not all that matters, though.
Yeah, because like what
You get good actors in a bad movie.
Yeah, you can get
you're
a
gonna
bunch of
bad
great
movie.
thoroughbred racehorses and put them in a shipping container. They're not going
Right.
to be great, you know?
Right. So another problem in the movie is that it falsely advertised that the Mandarin was like the big bad villain for the whole movie.
He shows
And
up 3 times.
And even if he wasn't magical, I would have dug the fact if he was like Osama Ben Kingsley, like they showed him in the trailers.
yeah.
Like if he was still just going to be a terrorist and not a deity like he's supposed to be, I would have bbeen okay with that. But he wasn't even that. Even that wasn't real.
He was a farce, which again I think was kind of like a dig at the franchise. Was like,
Right.
all what you expected, screw that. Let's just.
I think
kinda
I
shit
think
on it.
Ryan Johnson actually directed and wrote this movie.
Ryan Johnson.
Director of Last Jedi and writer. of
Oh,
Last
that's right. Yeah, he was like,
Um,
let's do all the things that they don't want.
So this movie is only partially. It can be redeemed almost. Like it will never be better to watch. But so there's a short, another one of the DVD shorts, like I mentioned last time. But so there's a short with Scoot, the actor Scoot McNairy. Yeah. So one thing, he's a way better actor than should probably be in a DVD short. Like it's kind of weird to relegate him to a DVD short because he's a pretty fine actor. But so it's Ben Kingsley in prison and he's interviewing him or whatever and doing like a documentary about him. And then it pretty much turns out that he's a sleeper cell for the 10 Rings that actually exists apparently. So and that there's a real Mandarin that they mentioned was like a mystical warlord that he's gonna take him to be like executed by because he was like making fun of it, made a farce out of him or whatever.
Okay.
So if they take off with that and that the Mandarin exists somewhere and they were like using
Well, that must have been
like legends of him.
That must have been a teaser at the end that they got rid of.
Right. But it's like a 10 or 15
Because they're not
going to
make another Iron Man movie.
No. But if he shows up in Infinity War Part 2 or something, it's like, I don't know. It'd be
In
nice.
a DVD short, that's unlikely. If
no,
they eradicate
I'm just saying. But like if they show the real Mandarin, if they're saying that there's an actual Mandarin somewhere.
Yeah, but
if
what
he
I'm
shows
saying
up-
is that if they only showed it in a DVD.
Right. It's in canon,
Special. Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Same way that the other one is in canon. Like they're all in canon. It's just like it's just an incentive to buy the Blu-rays or whatever. But it would be kind of nice if that shows up again. But it probably
I
won't.
doubt they'll be able to fill all those eggs in the basket.
No, but Kevin Feige said every single thing. So that's a loose thread, is if the Mandarin's going to show up. Arbitrary rating from 1 to 10, I would say 1.
I really enjoyed it when I first saw it. I do think it has a lot of good ideas. I just think it's incredibly unexecuted.
I would say it's a 1, and it's not a 0 because the trailer was good and the ending fight scene with all the robots is kind of okay.
Really? Because I thought that was kind of annoying that they treated Iron Man's suits like disposable.
Well, yeah, suddenly they're pieces of garbage when he was taking tank rounds in the first movie.
Literally. It's like, wow. So I guess it goes to show that if you mass manufacture something, it becomes cheaper quality.
Yeah, you probably got his steel from China. You should be using American steel.
China. So,
China.
China. People think Tony Stark doesn't like China. He loves China.
Yeah, he even made a deal with the movie to help the Chinese market. China. Okay. So,
I would give it a 3
okay.
because it has Guy Pearce in it,
Yeah.
and he's in a tan suit. Although it does have that whole weird scene where Tony Stark breaks into their base,
The villa.
and he shoots somebody.
He shoots all sorts of people.
It's like, what? Like, did you forget what movie you were making?
Right. I mean, Iron Man kills people all the time.
No, I know, but it was
But
just
not
kind
like
of
that.
weird.
Well, it's because Shane Black, I'm sorry, I wonder if he wants to say Shane West. Shane Black is not a fan of Iron Man. He wanted to make a different movie, and he made it with Iron Man.
How'd that interview go down? Hey, director who hasn't directed anything in a decade and a half. Do you want to make this next movie? No, I really hate that franchise. We'll pay lots of money. Okay, I guess I'll take your money.
I guess I'll take your money and ruin your franchise? Question mark.
But again, I made a ton of money at the box office. But I want to know, and I'm going to go back and look at it, but I want to know how much of it was made posthumously to the release and how much of it was made
I mean, it had a huge
weekend.
opening weekend. I want to say
It opened in March or something, right?
May. It was May. So post-credit sequence is pretty innocuous. It's just him talking to Banner. He was like his therapist. That's like what the narration was.
Yeah.
Then he's like, I fell asleep. I wasn't listening. Oh, no, I'm not a therapist.
That's when I would have been like, I wish I fell asleep and wasn't listening.
Right? That's when I'm like, he could have been in this whole movie.
Yeah.
That's all I was thinking. I'm like, he could have been there this whole time.
But it's a nice way to kind of skirt the importance of that entire conflict. Is that like
Even
it was
the Hulk
it all
fell asleep
happened?
during it?
Well, no, is that it happened in a space and time where it had to be referred back to, not in a concise way.
Right.
So it's almost like that could have happened before Iron Man 1. Well, no, that's not true.
No,
but maybe it happened before Avengers. I don't know.
Fun fact: that short.
No, because he had that whole post-traumatic
Yeah,
stress
it's all a thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like they just didn't know how to frame the movie, so they put in a narration, like every other movie that doesn't know how to frame itself. The only thing that's really redeeming about that short, though, is that Justin Hammer's in it for like 5 seconds. It's kind of funny because he's in prison, and he needs to come back. All right, so moving on to Thor 2, The Dark World.
Actually, this might be my least favorite.
It's not, though. I tell you, if you watch these two movies, you're going to like this more than the other one.
All I have to say is that there should have been, the slogan for this film should have been bringing new meaning to plot holes.
Right? Because the plot is about holes.
It's about holes in space
holes.
where literally anything can go through them.
It led for some great action scenes. Or some fun ones, anyway.
It's so corny,
So
though.
it came out, so like this is when the gap starts to widen, like I was talking about, but this came out in November. So this is like 5 months after the last movie.
Yeah.
So,
well, they were probably like,
yeah.
he's dying, get him out of here.
They're probably like, maybe they'll forget about Iron Man 3 if we put it further apart.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really like this movie. What's your you said arbitrary rating? All right, never mind.
3.
I'm 1. But I don't. So this is so Thor: Dark World was made after Disney bought Star Wars, and you can tell because
it's Star Wars.
No, but like all of a sudden there's lasers everywhere. They use actual Star Wars sound effects. It's so strange. It's like a dress rehearsal.
Well, not only that, but it's got a villain plucked right out of freaking Lord of the Rings.
Right. Played by it's the second time a Thor movie wastes an actor as a villain.
Who
Chris
played?
Eccleston.
Oh, Eccleston. That's right. Doctor Who.
I was yeah, sure, but
plays the character who I can't remember because it was so uninteresting.
Malekith, I think.
Yeah. Well, it was just like literally. It should have been called Thor: The Dark Elves because that's literally all it was.
Well, yeah, but that's where they came from, the Dark World.
It's just so dumb. The whole movie was bad.
You know what? It opens
especially on the heels of how good Thor 1 was.
Right.
It's a different. You know what I think it really is? Like immediately following Avengers, which was like their crowning achievement, right? I think they were pouring all their resources into like new ventures, and they just handed all these other old properties to people who were like, we just need to make some movies until Age of Ultron comes out.
Is that we just need to make something until Guardians and Age of Ultron comes out?
Yeah. So like, you guys just handle this, and then they like, okay, well, we don't really know what we're doing. Don't worry about it. Just make it.
Yeah.
People will buy it anyway.
Phase 2 is, even though it has some great movies, is probably the weakest phase.
Well, yeah, it didn't have to lay any building blocks.
Right. But it's like they just forgot how to make sequels all of a sudden. But I don't know. So like this movie continues the tradition of the movie ending and Thor thinks Loki's dead again.
Yeah, and it's got the whole devil cross again, where it's like, okay, we get it. Loki's.
But it's not but it's like a fake double cross again.
It's like a fake. It's like a double cross.
Right. It's a triple.
You thought he double crossed me, but he double crossed you.
Yeah, but even worse.
The movie's just bad. It's just
also,
really bad.
It's like
way too much Stellan Skarsgård's ass.
I think it's a fun movie. They did it better in Ragnarok and Thor, but like the exchanges between Thor are still fun. Yeah, Thor and Loki are still fun. I like them.
Yeah, but like that kind of writes itself.
It's still good. It's
I remember when I was a kid. Yes, I used to throw you out the window. It was like, there's not
still
a whole
fun.
lot.
I like it. I also like I don't know. I like there's a lot of fun humor stuff.
But they don't say anything that like if I hadn't heard it, my
good
life
action
would have been
stuff
marred.
and fun special effects. I like a lot of like the high fantasy stuff that's in it. Like the dark elves.
It also
cool.
continues a tradition of
Thor doing
Valhalla,
something he was not supposed to do and getting banished kind of.
For it, yeah. But also Valhalla getting freaking rocked by somebody. Asgard, sorry, getting rocked by some invading force, and somehow it's still standing.
Well, my thing is like, they say at the end of Thor, like if you destroy the Bifrost, you'll never see what's her name again. So he goes to Earth in the Avengers because dark magic. They say like Odin conjured dark magic to get him there.
Yeah.
And then Thor 2 starts and the Bifrost is completely fucking repaired.
Well, they were working on it.
Can you is that how that works? You just work on it? You just get
rainbow,
you get some Lego rainbow bricks and you just fix the rainbow
Thor
road?
was like, it was, because they do destroy the Bifrost.
Yeah.
But like, Thor was kind of like a standalone film, and then when they bring in the Avengers, it's kind of like an unspoken thing. They're like, "Well, I came because there was something bigger at play," and I'm like, "Really?"
No,
like,
and they say that.
But like while you were here,
used like dark magic to get him there.
But it's like, but you couldn't like go say hi to Natalie Portman beforehand.
Well, they do mention she was put in protective custody.
Yeah.
There.
Well, because she was his girlfriend, like.
Right. Well, sure. Loki might want to kill her.
Well, okay, so they introduced like dumb blonde guy that's running around with Kat Dennings who offers nothing to the script.
He's not blonde, is he? He was a beanie the whole movie.
I don't know.
Then
they have a bunch of portals that have to align.
Yeah,
so
it's
that the script can fit through it.
So it's the convergence. It's almost the exact thing that Legend of Korra does way better in season 2 with the harmonic convergence and like all the dimensions aligning and stuff. God, that's good. Anyway. But it's pretty much that, and then he's like, if he puts the ether through all of the portals, it'll destroy everything in between, something like that.
Which again is such a weird.
So the ether, once again, it's an Infinity Stone. So it's only the second one to show up so far. Well, that we know that obviously the spear is, but we don't know at this point that it's the spear. But and I think it's the. I don't think it's the. It's the Reality Stone or something. Or I think it's the Reality Stone.
I was looking at a chart the other day. I can't remember.
I think it's red is the Reality Stone. They've changed colors a few times in the comics, so it's really hard to say. And they don't really say what all of them are.
Yeah. Well, and it's got the whole thing where he uses it to like
push people around.
Yeah, but
it can destroy the world, but hitting Thor just knocks them around.
They're dark elves, but it mutates them into darker elves.
Right. Well, I think Dark Elf. I don't know. I like the design of the Dark Elves though. They're like no theater.
They just
outfits.
I don't know. They kind of but that's
cool.
That to me was like a 300 nod.
Yeah, it's pretty much just it's like Stormtroopers and the Immortals had a child.
Yeah, and then like the rest of the time they just kind of look like the undead from Chronicles of Riddick a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's a movie where they kill Odin and his wife, or Odin goes. No,
his wife dies. Odin goes to that's the first movie when he goes to sleep.
Oh, that's right.
So Odin's wife or Thor's mother gets murdered, and then he breaks out Loki, then Loki seemingly dies, but he doesn't.
Cuts off Thor's arm, but he doesn't.
And then he kills Odin, but he doesn't. And then
they break up, but they don't.
But then they do.
And I broke up with her. But off screen, so it doesn't count.
Right. Bummer, no more Natalie Portman.
Stellan Skarsgård thought he put his belt on, but he didn't.
Right, so
there's no fun in it. Like, I don't think it's that fun. I thought it was pretty morose.
Okay, so there's not much.
It does have the most fight scenes, I guess, between Thor and another character.
Yeah,
but every one of them was really arbitrary.
Right. I do like the giant, crazy Skyrim monster guy. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I dislike that film.
What's funny is that movie was directed by a good director too. Like, is the guy who did Terminator Genesis, which was surprisingly good.
Which was surprisringly good. I will admit
But
that.
both movies share the fact
that I've never been more unexcited to see a movie and more surprised.
Right, but both of those movies were screwed with in one way or the other. So originally he filmed the movie and Loki was dead. They went back and reshot Loki being
because they put it in front of a test audience full of women, and they're like,
right, they realized that DeviantArts traffic was going to go down.
Yeah, is that even a thing still?
Of course it is. So then they changed that, and then in Terminator Genesis, they famously, spoiler alert, they advertised that John Connor is a robot in the trailers, but Alan Taylor really didn't want them doing that, and then they did it, and it really pissed him off because that would have been a pretty big surprise if you didn't. See the trailers.
If it wasn't for the fact that it was widely advertised that
and
way.
on the posters and everything.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's a shame that his movies keep on getting dicked with. At least the actual product of Genesis wasn't messed around with, just the marketing. But
yeah.
So the only real loose thread in this movie is, I guess, the stone is taken to Benicio del Toro in the post-credit sequence, and I guess he gives it to Thanos. Probably.
Well, it's weird too because the Guardians got their stone from Benicio del Toro, right?
No, they get it like what's the word? Appraised by him. They get it. He gets it from the beginning of the movie.
So, like, what are the odds that the collector gets 2 of the stones in his hands?
Pretty good. So here's the thing: is he instantly? Do you think he instantly hawks that to Thanos?
I don't know. Well, doesn't his whole thing get destroyed at some point?
Well, it gets blown up in Guardians.
Yeah.
And then Howard the Duck's there, but anyway,
how could he have possibly hawked it then?
He could have hawked it between movies. We don't know how much time's in between.
Guardians is a really weird movie because it happens on a timeline where Thanos is like a main character almost because
I like that he was in that.
what's
movie.
her name? His daughter
Gamora?
Gamora? No, the other one.
Gamora?
Gamora's
His
sister.
daughter?
No, his sister.
Oh,
It's like named after. It's like Plague or something like that.
no, it's Nebula.
Yeah, Nebula. His daughter Nebula is like.
Sounds fair, Dad.
But
I like that movie.
but yeah, so he's kind of like a main character because his daughters are like main characters in it, but like
Right.
he's not ready to destroy the earth yet. So
It makes you wonder when that takes place. Exactly. Because I mean, we can get into it later, but I wonder when. I'd have to look and see when Guardians actually takes place because it could be before some of the other movies. I'm not sure. So Dark
That's
World went on to make $640 million out of $170 million budget. And man, these average budgets go up crazy after the Avengers. Like they used to be like 140. Like almost every individual movie is over 150 after that.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them get into like 200s. Like Winter Soldier is crazy high. Doctor Strange, obviously. Arbitrary rating from 1 to 10. You can't say less than Iron Man 3. I refuse.
I really didn't like this movie.
Oh, God.
No, maybe I haven't sat back down to rewatch it, but
I mean, you don't remember shawarma, so maybe you do need to rewatch these movies.
I just remember, I genuinely enjoyed watching Iron Man 3 when I first saw it. I genuinely enjoyed watching Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah, fair enough. I would give it
I would call it Thor: The Boring World.
I would give it a 7.5 or something.
7.5.
Yeah, kind
above
of
Captain America.
Yeah. I feel like it's got. Yeah.
I don't know.
Captain America doesn't even have good action in it. That's like its huge thing. In a comic book movie with bad action's a bad comic book movie to a certain degree. And I think Thor at least has entertaining action, even if it is really Man of Steel-y at times. But
yeah,
that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. All right, moving on to the.
Oh, were there any zingers at the end of the Dark World?
That's the zingers. They take the ether to the collector.
The ether, which is also
to Infinity Stone,
which is also in Star Trek. It's the thing that they used to destroy the Vulcan planet.
the red matter.
The red matter.
God, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
Star Trek.
There's a franchise that fell down really quick.
No, I still like Into Darkness a lot. Beyond was the bad one. Beyond was the world's longest and most expensive Star Trek episode. And it wasn't even a good one. It's kind of boring.
So next on the docket is Captain America 2?
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Fuck yes.
Easily like
Winter
the best
Soldier.
the best
sequel?
No, like just the best freaking jump in quality between two sequels.
So it's ironic because pretty much every movie in the franchise gets worse with each sequel.
Except Captain America, which started out the worst.
Which started out the worst and got better over
so
time.
much better. Okay, so this came out April 4th, 2014. So this was the first movie that year. This is just a fucking awesome movie. It's like a solid action movie. Even if you don't watch it, it's like one of the few movies you can rewatch just as like an action movie because it doesn't require any other movies really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it requires a layup so you know who Hydra is.
Yeah, but they tell you.
Well, I know. I just say like that's
right.
But even that's like nebulous. So
right, pretty much Nazis.
I mean, it's got Robert Redford in it. It's got great star power.
Tell you what, I really thought Robert Redford was going to be Red Skull. I thought he was going to get shot and they were just going to like peel his face off. He's going to be like a really old ass Red Skull.
They could have done that, except for he was still in the Tesseract at that point.
Or was he?
We never talked about it, but
he could have been teleported.
Red Skull was supposed to be in the Avengers movie, but for some reason,
everybody was. It was rewritten into a more mainstream movie, but it was supposed to be Abomination, Red Skull, and Loki.
Yeah, basically
Justin Hammer.
The Avengers versus all the enemies of the Avengers.
Right.
But I guess maybe Infinity War will fix that.
Yeah, it might. They're gonna have a lot of like Thanos kids to fight, though. That's the thing, because I think the children of Thanos are gonna be in it. They're it's cool.
But no, yeah, Winter Soldier is one of my favorite movies in the franchise. It's also like one of the most simple. Like the plot is
it's like a Bourne movie. It's like a on the run thriller movie.
It has
action
that
film.
whole weird thing where somehow in World War II technology they were able to upload some guy's brain to a computer. And it's
Yeah, because
running
it's
DOS.
it's great though because it's on like a million like tape decks.
Yeah,
That's
no,
pretty
I
great.
get it. It's funny, but it's also kind of like, come on.
It's also a comic book movie. And
Yeah.
World War II technology included lasers.
Yeah,
So there's that.
you know. But other than that, like I don't know.
yeah, it's
brings
like-
back Bucky, turns him into an interesting character.
So I used to have an argument with a friend of mine, which you'd prefer Captain America's shield or Winter Soldier's arm. I would take the arm.
If I had a choice to
Yeah,
have one,
I would take the arm.
The only reason I would say the shield is because you
Range.
can set it down. If you always have a mechanical arm, that could cause inherent problems in your day-to-day life.
Not really, because you would know how to control that stuff.
I don't know. I'm
I
just
think
saying
you
there's
would.
certain things that you might be
Use your
doing
other
with it.
arm.
Well, what if you're left-handed? What if you're right-handed?
Well, it's on his right.
What if you're playing piano and like you're really pounding one side of the piano? And your
So
other
here's the
side-
thing. Speaking of movies being spoiled by trailers, is they show Bucky as the Winter Soldier in the trailer.
Hmm.
I don't think they should have done that because they don't show you that until the third act of the movie.
Yeah, when they reveal it. I guess I don't really remember any trailers of it, so I don't
And
know.
I do because they were. I mean, it's before every Marvel movie, so it's hard to miss. But so I think that was a mistake because you don't know Bucky. I mean, if you're observant and you know the comics, you know, but you don't know Bucky is the Winter Soldier until like before
Yeah.
the final fight scene.
There's a couple of movies though that have been ruined by trailers. in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I've stopped watching it, which is funny. It's one of the movies I first started watching, like not watching trailers for, was The Last Jedi. Thinking I really want to enjoy this movie and preserve it.
Yeah.
And God,
Yeah, how'd that work out for you?
I haven't watched any Infinity War clips or anything. They've been releasing a lot of footage and TV spots. I haven't watched any of them because I don't want to be spoiled. But
Well, Marvel seems to be getting a little bit better about.
a little bit.
Hiding
Apparently,
what
they
their
say that they
films are
haven't
about.
even made toys for like half of the stuff in the movie because they know that stuff leaks wicked early.
Yeah.
So like they're really trying to keep it a secret. But yeah, there's some of the best action scenes in recent memory are in this film. You got like the highway scene fight, and the Winter Soldier just savages so many fucking people in this movie. Like when he kicks the dude into like the fucking rotor and like destroys the jet. And
The whole
such a bastard.
That movie is a plot done right though, where it's got two plots running perpendicular to each other.
Yeah, and then they
that
meet up in the
converge
middle.
In the middle.
Right.
It introduces a lot of new characters, like Falcon, for instance,
He's a
who
solid
becomes
character.
pivotal for the rest of the film franchise.
Right.
It introduces Winter Soldier.
Black Widow
introduces-
arguably becomes more of a character.
Yeah, more interesting.
Right.
I like that it's two plots. It's about, Hydra trying to infiltrate the U.S. government, but it's also about the personal struggle of Captain
Right.
America dealing with the fact that his friend has now been turned into a Nazi.
Right.
Germany,
and that he
Russian
doesn't have like
killing
a home
machine.
life because it's all he knows how to do is be a soldier.
Yeah,
and
so it's a
stuff.
very introspective film.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, it's not like a heartwarming,
mean,
poetic masterpiece.
I mean, it's
but
pretty.
like,
It's pretty emotional though.
yeah, no, but it's got a lot of good stuff going on. Now,
Yeah.
who directed it?
Anthony Russo and Joe Russo, the guys who are doing Infinity War and did Civil War.
What did they do other than that, though?
That pretty much nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
No Rocky.
I think they
films or
did
anything
like what's that movie like Couples Retreat or something?
Oh,
with
that
Vince
was-
Vaughn?
That was actually not bad.
No, but like that's quite the shift, huh?
Yeah. But you know what? They've been handing movies to weirder directors, I guess.
Dude, like Homecoming, which I know you have mixed feelings about. I love that movie to death, but like that was directed by the guy who did that movie Clown. When the guy
A horror film?
Yeah. He directed that and like a couple college humor videos, and then he made that. And I'm like, that's pretty good work, dude.
It's pretty
What can I say?
gutsy for Marvel to hand it to
I
them,
mean, wouldn't be
guess.
the first time a horror director got Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, well, that's true. But yeah, I would arguably give Civil War an 8. I mean, it's one
Winter
of my
Soldier.
favorite. Sorry, Winter Soldier. It's one of my favorite sequels, but also like it does a good job of fleshing out an otherwise kind of white bread character
Yeah.
and giving a lot more weight to the whole franchise.
Right. So this movie, and it reflected the fact that this movie made like $714 million, which I think is one of the most for an individual character at that point. The budget was 170, so it was pretty high. But
Captain America movies do kind of feel like Avengers movies, though.
well, because I feel like it's because they deal with Shield stuff and whatnot, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like when it's like the State of the Union is usually assessed in Captain America movies, where everybody else is more
The only
self-focused.
thing I didn't like about it was the whole tired stereotype of like Nick Fury's dead. oh no, I ain't.
Okay, so
like,
here's another thing that trailers need to stop doing, and it started with The Dark Knight. If you're going to kill a character or make us think he's dead, don't show lines from after he's supposed to be dead in the trailer.
yeah,
Because Jim Gordon was supposed. Yeah, it would have really been emotional if when Jim Gordon gets shot in Dark Knight, if they didn't have every single trailer having the line of him talking about the Joker's empty pockets and lint in the fucking trailer, which is after he's supposed to be dead. So like you don't feel anything really.
Yeah, I guess they probably thought that was underwhelming enough of a line.
The movie sure doesn't fucking treat like that.
Yeah.
Because it's like 30 minutes, like 25 minutes or so, you think he's dead. Like they really wanted you to think he was dead.
Yeah.
But nobody did because they watched every single trailer and TV spot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not much. I mean, everything that is loose in this movie was pretty much assessed in Civil War. Post-credit sequence was Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, which was, that's pretty much it, leading into Age of Ultron. And I noticed this with Phase, a lot of Phase
Oh, that's right.
movies.
But isn't it them in like a holding cell?
Yeah, it's like them in
How old
in
are
the
they?
woods. In that movie,
Yeah,
this must be
the
like
current age.
Yeah, it must be a couple months before.
Okay,
they
I
find
can't
them.
remember if they were kids or not.
No,
yeah, because it's literally her like playing with blocks or
and
something,
then him just spazzing, having like seizures.
having seizures. Yeah,
And it's it lends to an interesting thing I've realized in movies where like the movie right before the Avengers is usually not the movie that'd be the best lead up to the Avengers.
no,
It's usually the movie 2 movies before.
yeah. It's
So
like the halfway
Thor
point.
is a better lead up to the Avengers almost than Captain America is, because it involves Loki and the like interdimensional stuff and
Oh yeah,
yeah, and then
But then Captain America: Civil War is like
Right.
a direct prelude.
right. Well, it's a sequel, but then for instance, like, and then with this, like the last movie before Age of Ultron was Guardians, which you couldn't be a more, like
Yeah, separate.
you're right.
Guardians arguably feels like
It's the most detached Marvel movie.
yeah, it
that
doesn't
especially
even feel like it's in the same plot
especially to
device,
come right before Avengers.
same storyline.
But like Captain Winter Soldier leads right up to Age of Ultron, so it's weird. And then you go to now with Infinity War, Black Panther is not. I mean, I guess we'll see how important Wakanda. It's probably gonna be pretty important, but like Thor. Thor Ragnarok seems like a way better layup, especially because it literally ends with like Thanos coming upon them.
Mhm.
It's like a direct layup to that. Maybe it's because they want to build the suspense and like keep teasing people with like stuff and then like making them
Well,
wait
I
a
think
year.
the way that they pace it that way, and I'm not even saying it's necessarily intentional, but
Maybe.
I think that the way that they pace them is that they give you a little taste of what to expect, but then they want to show you that elsewhere this is happening. Like it's
Right.
not all necessarily happening in chronological order.
That's fair.
And again, Black Panther, and we'll talk about this, but Black Panther was kind of an isolated incident. Like it does
Right.
technically take place as a direct sequel to Civil War,
Right.
but it's more of an internal struggle. But I felt the same way about this movie.
Right.
You know, Captain America: Winter Soldier is very internalized. However, it does
Right.
involve Shield.
It only really
involve a couple Avengers.
It only really like testifies to the attitude of characters more than like the grand scheme of things.
yeah.
But I mean,
Like, where the
Shield
current
stops
status
existing. That's a
quo
pretty
is.
big thing,
Yeah,
or it kind of does because I mean they still do
sort
shit.
of. Yeah,
But,
I mean, it's the event. They become the Avengers Initiative. They
Right.
less about Shield.
Right. I mean, theoretically, all the good people that worked for Shield get employed by Tony Stark and the
Right.
sequel.
And now it's like, you know, Nick Fury shows up, but only for like motivational speaking. And
in Barnes when he's like with John Deere tractors and stuff.
yeah.
But so that's it for those first 3 movies. So we're going to take a short break and talk about the next 3.